Hello. So, the school year is coming up, and I thought I would do a video about um, kind of having um, like various um, disabilities so that you get accommodations while also being in school. And um, I'm in college right now, so that I'm planning to focus on specifically being in college. I don't have a lot of experience with um, like accommodations in K through 12. Um, to me, K through 12 is a lot different, um, and this the structure is just so different that I don't know that it really applies to K through 12 as well. Um, but anyway, I'm just going to run through the list of accommodations that I have through the Disability Center. Um, and right now, I have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. It used to be Asperger's, but now that's all changed. So it's just kind of autism now. And then I've also been diagnosed with combined type ADHD. At one point in time, they thought it was inattentive type, but I can sometimes have issues with impulsivity and do um, things that I probably shouldn't. Um, so I got the impulsivity, which is part of hyperactivity. So they just said combined type. And the way, at least at my school, that it's set up is that, like, um, because the diagnoses that I have registered with the Center for Students with Disabilities are things like autism and ADHD and stuff like that. Um, my accommodations are good for 5 years, but I've heard from other students that if you have a diagnosis like depression or one student mentioned PTSD, um, and I'm not really sure what others there are, but at this school, you have to get an updated diagnosis every year for those conditions. I guess because ideally those are like treated with therapy and medication. Um, so I guess maybe the accommodations necessary would change throughout the trajectory of treatment. I'm not really sure what their reasoning is. I haven't asked them. That's just kind of the only thing that makes sense. Whereas, like, autism and ADHD are like neurodevelopmental disabilities that are, well, autism is definitely lifelong. ADHD is, they used to think it wasn't really lifelong, but now they've learned that it is. Um, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to read off the accommodations that I have, um, and I have had since I started at, well, yeah, just about. It took me a few months to like get registered with the school. Um, and also to realize I probably should do that because I didn't really know if it was necessary. Um, but yeah, anyway, I'll get into that in a minute maybe. The accommodations that I have are, well, first off, I have my cat. Um, his name is Trick, and I live in a dorm, so he gets to be with me. He's registered as an emotional support animal, um, which is cool. I don't really like talking to people, to be honest. I think a lot of people suck. Um, so the accommodations I have are audio versions of textbooks, um, extra notes from either a classmate or an instructor, use of computer for essay exams so I can like type them and stuff. It says provide study guidance. I'm not really sure what that means. I think it just means a study guide. And it says group work is difficult. I can have alternative assignments for class presentations, which usually just means I present it to the professor in office hours, if anything. Priority seating in classroom, distraction reduced environment for tests, which just means I go to the CSD to take tests, breaks as needed, extended testing time, so I have double testing time. And for me, 9 credit hours is considered full time, and then no more than one exam per day, and occasional extension due dates. With the little caveat of that being I have to make the professor aware of that I'm not going to turn something in on time and kind of like run it by them and all that. Now with accommodations, the thing about them is that these are kind of like, I guess, a safety net, if you want to call it that, because just because you have the accommodation doesn't mean you need to use it. For example, like the extended testing time, that just kind of like gives you extra time if you need it, but if you don't need it, then you don't use it, so it doesn't really matter. Um, so, yeah, I think that's kind of, for me at least, that's kind of what I feel a lot of students don't really understand when some of the students get accommodations, because these are more like a safety net because of certain things that a student with a certain diagnosis might struggle with. Um, and it's like in high school, generally, maybe not all the time, but most of the time, if I had to give a presentation, I'd skip class that day. Um, so that didn't really like help out my grades at all. But it was kind of the way I coped then, with everything that was going on. Not that I really needed an excuse to not go to class, because I didn't like going to class. But like it wasn't an option to kind of have any sort of help in that regard in those classes. Um, so I just like didn't go, and uh, it didn't really help my grade. But sometimes students who have accommodations are treated like they're less than in the K through 12 system, especially. Um, so, in some ways, not having accommodations for certain things was good, and it maybe almost prepared me more for high school. I mean, for college, but at the same time, um, certain things, like from time to time, different grades and classes would kind of take a hit. So it's kind of like a balance of good and bad. Anyway, so like, but now that I have these accommodations, um, a lot of times I don't even use them, um, because they're just not needed, um, and they're just there to kind of. School is already really hard for pretty much everyone, um, particularly like college, um, and it can be really stressful, and you're kind of like more or less on your own, and it's kind of up to you to study and to go to class and all these other things, um, in ways that are a lot different from high school. So um, I just like just the added stress of, um, kind of being more of an independent person and an adult. Um, it just kind of takes a lot of effort, and like you have to make your own food, and you have to do your own laundry, and yeah, but it's not just like, you know, your parents like help out sometimes, like they'll make dinner or something, and like you have to make your own breakfast. Like, no, it's pretty much, I mean, you can live at home while going to college, but I don't. So but that makes it all the time. Like, if you want breakfast or lunch or dinner or anything else, you have to figure that out on your own. So, just like it's like the stress of like living and functioning day to day, um, and just taking more responsibility of various things, and all that can kind of add up. So, I think, accommodations are great to have because they give you like more options and more flexibility to be able to get stuff done. Um, and so yeah, that's my video, about, accommodations specifically. I'm probably going to go ahead and also make a different video, um, about, like, I guess my experience, specifically, with the things I've been diagnosed with and going to college. Um, so yeah.